Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about alcohol. I'm currently about 130 days alcohol free. I know the title says 100 days, but I've been a bit slack making this video. But more importantly, I just know that I'm never going to go back to alcohol again. So today I'm going to be talking about why I came to this decision and how I can be so confident moving forwards. I'm going to split this video into three, and first up I'm going to explain my story briefly and why I came to this decision, and secondly I'm going to explain my strategy, and lastly I'll explain the benefits. The reason I'm going to go in that order is that if you're someone who's questioning your relationship with alcohol, you can already imagine what the benefits are. You can already imagine that it feels great to wake up hangover free every day. You can imagine that you'll exercise more and eat better and not have things that you regret because of alcohol. But there's probably a little bit of you that also wants alcohol, that finds it fun or finds it relaxing or finds it sociable. There's that schizophrenia in your mind. So the second bit that I'm going to talk about, my strategy, will help you get over that wanting it. So now, where I'm at now, I just don't even need to use willpower to not have alcohol. I just don't want it. And I'm going to explain how I went about that. And then lastly, I will of course touch on the benefits because there are lots, but I know you know that. Before we get into it, there's a couple of disclaimers. First disclaimer, I am not preaching alcohol-free living for everyone. I absolutely believe that some people can have alcohol in their life and totally add value to their life. I don't think I'm one of those people. That's why I've kind of gone on this journey. But I am not preaching it to everybody. If you don't want to give up alcohol, don't watch this video. Second disclaimer, I am not an expert in this field. I'm just going to be talking about my story, the things that have helped me, and the reason I want to do that is that when I started questioning alcohol, YouTube really helped me. Watching other people's videos really helped me. So if I'm a little voice in that sea of information, that's great. And if this video helps you, I'm really pleased, but I am not an expert. If you have a strong alcohol dependency, you should absolutely look for an expert who can help you more. So with all that being said, let's get into it. The short way I explain why I gave up alcohol is I've come to realize that there are two types of people in the world. There are people who know when to stop drinking. So they'll start to feel tipsy and there might be things in their body that say, oh, I'm getting a bit tipsy now, I don't like it, I don't like the sense of being out of control, I should stop drinking now, I need to go home, I need to drink water, I need to go to bed, any of those things. The other type of person in this world gets tipsy and thinks the best idea ever is to have more drink, and then when they get drunk they think the best idea in the world is to have even more drink, and there's not that voice in their head that says you need water, you need to go home, you need to stop drinking. Their voice actually says you need to drink more. So I'm that category. I don't know why that is. There might be something physiological, I don't fully understand it, but the last time I drank alcohol, I went to my friend's house, I said to my wife, I've got 4 beers, I took them with me in a bag, I'd chosen them specially from this specialty beer shop, they were lovely beers. I said to my wife, I'm going to be home by 9 PM, we're going to have a lovely day with the kids tomorrow, I want to exercise in the morning, I'm just going to have these 4 beers. I went to my friend's house, I drank the 4 beers, and he gave me a glass of wine, and that ended up being a bottomless glass of wine, which between the two of us, who knows how many bottles we had. I got in at about 2 AM, completely wasted. So obviously the next day I woke up to an angry wife, but also I woke up with the worst hangover. And for the first time ever, I had this voice in my head that said, this is not okay. I just don't want to be doing this anymore. There was no point in that night, the day before, where I was actually in control. I went with 4 beers. I wanted to have 4 beers when I was sober. That was the decision I tried to make. But once you have, if you're like me, once you have a little bit of alcohol, your decision making changes, and I ended up getting so wasted. I had the worst hangover ever. I didn't exercise, didn't have an enjoyable day with my kids. The next few days at work were hard and I was grumpy. And this voice in my head said, this is not okay. I've given up alcohol before. I think a little bit of my mind has known that it's not something I want in my life. And I've given up alcohol for a whole year. I've given up alcohol for about 100 days before. And each time I gave it up in those situations, I kind of thought to myself that if I can give up alcohol for a whole year, that proves I'm in control. I'll be able to go back to it and this won't happen again. But obviously that's not the case. During those times where I've come off alcohol in the past, I was using what we call the willpower method. I kind of still wanted to drink, but I had the willpower not to. This time's different. So when I woke up with this hangover, I watched a video that was a highlight off the Joe Rogan podcast. And this lady, a comedian, she was saying, that she used to drink every single day. She thought it was part of her job. She thought she needed to have alcohol to be social, to succeed in her career. But she read a book and instantly she gave up, and she's never drank since. In the Joe Rogan clip, she'd been sober for about 11 years and her career has skyrocketed. So I picked up this book, The Easy Way to Quit Alcohol by Alan Carr. And in the book, he says, you don't have to give up alcohol while you're reading the book. In fact, he encourages you to keep drinking. I was reading this book on the day that I was hungover, so I actually really didn't want to drink. And at the end of the book, he offers you to have your last drink. Now, having read the book, I was about 20% of the way through and I knew that I would never drink again. I'd already made that decision. He'd kind of convinced me already. The book is really clever because, as I was saying earlier, you know the benefits of not drinking. The book doesn't go into all the science of the downsides of drinking, all the research around the effects it has on you. It doesn't do that. What it does is it goes chapter by chapter, taking the reasons you think you want to drink, and he makes you realize they're an illusion. They're not really real. So I'll go through some of the reasons I thought I wanted to drink. I thought drinking made me social, and the book made me realize no, being social makes you social. So being with your friends, having conversation is what makes you social. In fact, you could argue that by being sober, you're actually going to be better at listening and engaging and having conversation and thinking. You're not going to say things you regret, so you actually have better conversation. You're arguably more social. Being social and having alcohol are mutually exclusive things. They're completely different. You can be social and have alcohol, but you can be social and not have alcohol and you're still social. In social situations, lots of people find that having a drink loosens them up and relaxes them and helps them settle into a social situation, particularly with people you've never met before, in work situations or in big groups. And he challenges you on that as well. This might be the most helpful thing that I read in the book. So he says that when you're in a social situation and you feel a little bit nervous, that nervousness is entirely normal. We've evolved to live in tribes. And the reason we as animals live in tribes is that we're actually not very strong, we're not very fast, we don't have sharp fangs. Out in nature, we're actually pretty weak. So the only way we survive in jungles and out in the plains is as a tribe who look after each other. If you were an idiot and you got banished from the tribe, back in the day, that would have been certain death. So we've evolved feelings like embarrassment, guilt, regret, so that we try and fit in, and fitting in is what helped us survive. So when you're in a social situation, it's entirely normal to feel a little bit embarrassed, a little bit awkward, a little bit shy, because when you meet new people or you're in a big group, everyone's just like subtly testing each other out to check that they're not an idiot, and that's because of these evolutionary psychology reasons that we've had ingrained into us for hundreds of thousands of years. The thing is though, we're not going to get banished and you're not going to have a certain death living out in the plains anymore, but those feelings are still there and they're normal. The book teaches you to acknowledge and accept those feelings, but not feel the need to drink them away. Drinking, although it may inebriate the fear or the anxiety of a social situation, it also inebriates all emotion. Drinking doesn't make you braver, it just inebriates fear, along with inebriating all other emotion. So by acknowledging your anxiety, embracing it, and being sober through that anxious moment, that's actually being more brave and more courageous. Plus, the anxiety disappears after 20 minutes or so. The analogy he uses here is that if you imagine a kid's party, when kids go to a party, they normally hide behind their parents' leg a little bit and are a bit shy, but within 20 minutes they're running around screaming, dancing, jumping all over each other, and they didn't need any alcohol to do it. That shyness at the beginning is normal, it's how we've evolved, but you overcome it, and if you overcome it sober, that's really the true definition of bravery. Drinking your way through it is actually just inebriating the fear, but it's inebriating everything else as well. Another reason I wanted to drink before was I thought it made me calm at the end of a day or the end of a long week. And again, the book makes me realize, no, it's not the alcohol that makes me calm, it's living a life that I don't need to escape from that makes me calm. So now being sober, I can be more mindful and intentional all through my life, so I don't really need to escape from it. Times get hard, and I still have anxieties about things, of course, everyone does, but I can embrace them sober, and that makes me feel more strong, and that helps me be calm as well. I still like to have mindful moments in the day with a drink, but it will be an alcohol-free drink, and there are some nice alcohol-free gin alternatives that I particularly like that feel like an adult drink. I only have them at certain times where I would normally have an alcoholic drink in the past, and it feels an adult moment that I can cheers with my wife, but I don't need alcohol for it. It's just that mindful moment that draws a line in the week. And the other reason I thought I really wanted alcohol was that I really said that I enjoyed the taste of it. I used to spend a ridiculous amount of money on very high-end craft beers and wine, and I would talk all about the little nuances of flavors and breweries and where it came from and all that stuff. But the book made me realize that actually I'd worked really hard to enjoy the taste. When I first started drinking, I didn't like the taste, no one does. And then you work hard to try and like it, you spend more money on it. But really, if you genuinely question yourself, and especially if you have time away from it, you realize you don't really like it. You'd worked hard to try and like it. There were many other reasons why the book helped me, many other chapters that resonated with me, but they were the main ones. So now I really do feel like a blank slate. I remember when I was about 15 years old and I hadn't ever really drunk before. I might have had the odd sip here and there with my parents, but I'd certainly never drunk with my friends. But my friends were starting to drink, and I went to an end of season football party and some of my friends had been drinking, and I was walking home with my parents, and my parents said, "Oh, well done for not drinking tonight, Chris," as if they thought I had been drinking with my friends before. I was like, no, I just don't drink. I don't see the point in it, because I've been watching my friends act like idiots. Every time I tried the alcohol they're drinking, it tasted disgusting. I just couldn't see the point in why anyone would want to drink. It was like a no-brainer to me that I wouldn't drink. And then obviously life happened, I started drinking, I worked hard, I got into it, and peer pressure and culture and all of those things tied in. And eventually I just ended up drinking like most people do. But that 15-year-old self who just didn't understand why anyone would want to drink, that's how I feel now. So I've had this illusion lifted thanks to this book. And as you can imagine, the benefits are what you expect. I love knowing that 7 days a week I can wake up, I can exercise. If my kids wake up in the night, I'm there for them. When I'm putting them to bed, there's never any alcohol smell on my breath. I'm always lucid and clear with my kids. That's probably the most important thing to me. Happy wife, that's also very important to me. I really do feel like there's been a weight lifted off my shoulders that I didn't even know was there. I genuinely thought I enjoyed alcohol, but I hated the fact that a few times a year I'd get way more drunk than I intended to. Now there's never that fear. I can go to a wedding, I went on a stag do recently and I was sober on it and I loved it. It was so much fun. I had all the fun stuff, none of the hangover. I can go to any of these events. I don't feel worried beforehand. My wife doesn't feel worried beforehand. I can have all the fun, none of the hangover. I always used to procrastinate more at work on a Monday and Tuesday, and I wasn't drinking much most weekends, but even a little bit of alcohol would make me procrastinate more on Mondays, Tuesdays. I'd be a little bit grumpy on Mondays, Tuesdays. I couldn't get the week going until Wednesday, Thursday. And God, imagine the opportunity cost of all those jobs that I needed to get done on Monday, Tuesday, stacked over a year. My kind of working life is just much more productive and happier. And then I feel healthier as well, because 7 days a week I'm making decisions that are true to myself in terms of the food that I want to eat, the exercise I want to do. I'm not hungover where I want bags of crisps and carbs, lots of processed carbs. I'm just eating what I want. And then that phrase, being true to myself, that is true all the time. If I think back about my life, there are things that I failed at, but if I failed at them sober, it was a lesson, it was a learning curve. That when I did things that I regretted drinking, I really hated myself. Why did I do that? But it didn't feel like the true me. Whereas now I know that I'm always the true me. Like, I'm gonna fail at things, but I'm gonna learn. Whereas comparing that to when I was drinking, it didn't happen often, but from time to time, I would say things I didn't mean, or just be a bit arrogant or exaggerate, and I'd wake up really kicking myself, wishing I hadn't said things. So now I know that I'm just always my true self. So if you've made it this far in the video, I just want to reiterate, this is my story. And if you're someone who's questioning your relationship with alcohol, I hope it helps a little bit. Please feel free to comment below with any questions. If you're not questioning alcohol, I'm surprised you made it this far. But I'm not preaching the alcohol-free way of life for everybody. If you fall into that first category of people who has that little voice in your mind that tells you when to stop drinking, I'm jealous of you. I wish I had that. And if I did have that, I probably wouldn't have given up alcohol. In a weird way, I'm kind of grateful that I'm where I'm at and I've decided to give up forever. I just now know that life is going to be a lot easier, a lot healthier, a lot more productive, a lot happier with my kids and my wife. And I'll be the true version of me. So like I say, I really hope that helped, and until next time, have a healthy and happy week.